You're listening to Alcoholics Alive, where recovered members of Alcoholics Anonymous share their experience on how they live AA as a way of life. None of our participants get paid or speak for AA. Here are your hosts, Shank and Wayne. Shank, I feel like we're really on to something with the review of the Living Sober book.
You think so?
Well, I was looking at Reddit the other day, and somebody posted in it they were looking for some recommendations on the best thing to read from AA literature, and the most upvoted response was this, that somebody had recommended reading Step 1 from the 12 by 12,
Okay.
which, as you already know, I think is one of the worst writings in any literature. There's a couple of good statements in there, but his premise on being powerless over alcohol or alcoholism totally contradicts the book Alcoholics Anonymous. But anyway, that was one of the responses, and then the next response was anything out of Living Sober. And I'm like, so that's the most popular response to the question of what should I read out of AA literature?
Well, maybe people were just assuming that, obviously read the book Alcoholics Anonymous, but if you're not going to do that, then the first step in the 12 by 12 and anything from Living Sober.
Maybe
Or
that's what it
maybe
is.
maybe the assumption is if you're coming to Reddit to ask and you're not either A, Googling, B, asking chat, or C, just seeing what you have handy.
Yeah. Well, could be. I mean, I wanted to tell him, call you sponsor, but that he obviously probably didn't have one. But those would be like the two least likely things that I would have recommended. That's what's interesting about it. So I guess maybe I'm way off track. Yeah. I mean, why not read the book Alcoholics Anonymous? Read the Bible would be better to read than the Step 1 and the 12 by 12. Yeah.
You're really
Anyway,
ruffling some feathers with that one.
yep. All right. Well, let's get centered and focused. If you're out there listening, we appreciate you joining us. Shank, what's our Upon Awakening reading?
Upon Awakening today, episode 12. This comes from the book Alcoholics Anonymous at page XXI. That is the foreword to the second edition. This is the fourth edition, 2001. And it says, "Yet it is our great hope that all those who have as yet found no answer may begin to find one in the pages of this book and will presently join us on the high road to a new freedom."
Such a good read. Yep, it's a very good writing. I mean, it basically tells us that they're hoping that we're going to find a solution to our problem in the book, Alcoholics Anonymous, and that we're going to join them on the high road to a new freedom. I think that's happened for me. Well, I know it's happened for me. I certainly found a solution in the book by taking the steps and became free.
You know what's interesting is the people in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I don't know, maybe it's the length of time I've been sober at this point, but it's recurring lately that the people that were around when I got here, some of them, yes, were old timers and have now died, croaked, sober. And then other people have been sober for 20, 30 plus years. And then me and, small group of people have stayed sober this whole time. And it really has felt like joining people
Mm-hmm.
on the high road to a new freedom. And
Yep.
there are people that I know I can always call,
Yep.
and they're going to be sober. They're going to lead me back to God. They're going to have a suggestion. They're going to listen, or they're going to say, hey, you're way out of whack right now.
Yep.
So it really has felt like I joined people who were doing something
That's right.
that looked appealing, and it looked like their lives had changed spiritually. So,
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the essence of what it's talking about. And these are what we call our fellow travelers,
that's right.
right?
That's right.
Yeah. And we've joined the fellowship that we crave. So it's good to be on the high road. Good to be out of the junkyard and the trailer park.
Sure is.
Nothing wrong with that, but I'm glad to be out of it.
Me too.
Well, what concept are we on now? We're getting close to the end, aren't we?
We are on concept 12.
Whoa.
Wow. Concept 12. Um, okay, here's what it says. Do you want me to
Re-
read the short version
That's up to
or
you.
okay.
It's, the short one is short. The long one is long. The long one's got a lot of meat in it.
Okay. Here's
Yeah.
what it says. The conference shall observe the spirit of AA tradition, taking care that it never becomes the seat of perilous wealth or power, that sufficient operating funds and reserve be its prudent financial principle, that it place none of its members in a position of unqualified authority over others, that it reach all important decisions by discussion, vote, and whenever possible, by substantial unanimity, that its actions never be personally punitive nor an incitement to public controversy, that it never perform acts of government, and that, like the society it serves, it will always remain democratic in thought and action.
That's pretty powerful reading. It's a pretty powerful concept. It kind of
It
just
is.
covers everything, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
And kind of covers all of the 12 traditions in it.
So what does all that mean?
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot in there, obviously. The the thing about this concept is it also includes the warranties, right? So there's 6 warranties that actually come from Article 12 of the conference charter. So again, we're kind of taking more of a high road to the 12 concepts. So we're not going to go in a lot of the detail on that. But this concept is kind of born out of Article 12 of the conference charter. So if anyone wants to read the conference charter, you can go to the service manual and do that. We're not gonna go through that today, but we are going to probably cover the 6 warranties. So, and the interesting thing about the warranties is they're they're basically spiritual principles for the conference to follow, and really for areas and districts and groups to follow as well. And one thing to know about those is they can't be changed very easily. So there's a safeguard in there that it would require 3/4 of all AA groups worldwide that would respond to a request to actually change them. So that's important to know. If you've never actually read the warranties themselves, you should probably take some time to do that because they're they're really very specific and helpful. So this concept is really like a guardrail that it protects us from people with egos and that are trying to be power drivers or that are trying to, skirt around the truth and issues and things like that. I would think of them as kind of traditions for service that are permanent and like principle-based protections. Probably the best way to cover them would be to actually just do a kind of a high-level overview of the six warranties. So I'll start with number one. So the first warranty is kind of, it gets at the conference not having any perilous wealth or power. So if you think about that, that would kind of say that AA shouldn't become rich, which we've not. Hey, we can give them
No
credit for
worries
that,
there.
right? Not yet, anyway. If they keep increasing contributions from bequest and AA members, they might. They should never become too powerful or too self-important. And I would say, all in all, AA as a whole, AA as an entity, at least from like public perception, we probably have held to that pretty good. It does mean that we should stay spiritually grounded, though, and that we should stay financially and politically humble. I don't know. Again, I would say probably externally from a political humble standpoint, we probably have done that. But I think internally, a lot of nowadays, at least like I said, the last 9 years, people's politics and their kind of their social beliefs, I think, have infiltrated AA a little bit in some of the direction we've gone with stuff. And financially, I wouldn't say we've stayed humble. Maybe we'll talk about that one in the next one. So I think in general, we've done a good job of not accumulating wealth and probably not having power as an entity. The second warranty talks about prudent financial principle. So this is the one that kind of tells us that we should maintain enough operating funds to operate. We should have a prudent reserve that helps us, and that we should avoid excessive savings or extravagance. Now, I mean, we've covered a lot of stuff on this one in previous podcasts, particularly as it relates to prudent reserve. So when I think about this one, I mean, no secret if you've been listening to the podcast, A has continued to take money out of the reserve fund for various things, but at least the last 3 or 4 years, they've taken money out of the general reserve fund to subsidize the grapevine, which is just completely, it's just completely kind of flies in the face of this warranty, because the grapevine is a separate entity than AAWS. The grapevine claims that it's fully self-supporting by its own subscriptions, but yet we continue to take money from what I would call book sales and seventh tradition contributions to fund it. And it's done a couple of things. It's made the grapevine dependent upon the general fund or the reserve fund, AAWS, and has also put a strain on AAWS's financial situation in the prudent reserve. So I don't think we're following this one. I think there's good intentions there, but we're not doing it.
Well, at what point, I'm not saying that we are wealthy, AA is wealthy, but at what point do we address expenses instead of just upping
Yeah.
contributions all the time?
Yeah.
That's not what I personally was taught when I arrived in AA. And also the grapevine, it's very dishonest, because I have never heard anyone say that the grapevine is, it doesn't say on their front page that they're taking money from the general fund to subsidize the grapevine. And how did we start a grapevine podcast when the grapevine is being subsidized by the general fund, but they're still saying that they're completely funded by magazine subscriptions?
Yeah. It's a good question. And it's one of those things where it's it's like from a delegate's report and from stuff you get from the office, it's kind of like lightly mentioned. So, I mean, I don't, I mean, we couldn't say that they're like not telling anybody because you can find the info and you can get somebody to tell you about it, but it's always like just the urgency and the seriousness of it has never, I've never heard anyone actually communicate that appropriately. And they just kind of skirt around it when they're reporting on it.
Well, because we're always on a 5-year plan with the Grapevine.
That's right.
And I
Lots of
do
5-year plans.
think that potentially there's a it's quite possible that if they were to get honest with the fellowship at large, that the Grapevine is being subsidized and cannot support itself ever and never will be able to based on magazine subscriptions because that form of media is largely going away and they spend all this money putting everything online, which is great. You can search everything on the Grapevine website. It's great. Um, I think that if they were honest about that with the general fellowship, people would want to pay for it as a service arm.
I think you're
But you're
right about
not.
that.
You're so dishonest about it
Yep.
that you don't want to really take on, you would rather subsidize it than be responsible for it. And
Yep.
I just feel like that is so dishonest.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, there's lots to do there with cutting expense that they're probably not, looking at. And then with the Grapevine, I mean, you could probably still have a really cool product for the fellowship to use if you called it a service piece and just paid for it and looked at other ways to do it. The other thing that happens with that, this is a little off track, but we overemphasize the impact Grapevine has. I'm not saying it doesn't have an impact on people's lives and that it certainly has probably woke people up out of stuff and like that has helped them, but you can't tell me with over 2 million members and only somewhere between 50 and 60,000 subscriptions and even less than that that have the app. I mean, who's it impacting? I mean,
Or,
anyway,
I mean, we put it into these books, which I'm not saying that the books are what, okay, but either publish the magazine or take all the stuff that people are sending in and make a book. Like, why do
yeah,
we need to do both?
yeah, we don't. The other thing about that is I was at a workshop recently and they did a presentation on the Grapevine. And I don't know, there were only about 30 people there. I think three of us had subscriptions. What does that tell you? But even people that are up there talking about how great it is don't even have a subscription.
Hmm.
I mean, so anyway, that's warranty two is we should be financially prudent. We should have just enough operating funds and a prudent reserve, and we should be prudent with our money. Right? We shouldn't do things we can't afford. Is really what that means. Warranty three talks about no unqualified authority. So this one really gets at you know, no one, not the trustees, delegates, not staff, should have any unchecked power, and that all of us are trusted servants and we're accountable to each other. Um, it's an interesting one. I don't know. I don't know if you got any thoughts on this one, Shank, or if there's any questions in your. I know you got questions that you spring on me sometimes, but I've never had anybody like try to have power over me. I have had. Um, I have had people that thought they knew better, and because they think they know better, then they try to basically impose their experience or their judgment or their uh, ideas on me.
Well, for me, I mean, it just goes back to this intergroup committee that I was on. And there were a few people who had unchecked power, and there were a few people who um, could not put principles before personalities. They did not like my personality, which is their prerogative.
Yep.
And unfortunately for them, at times, I knew more than they did.
Yeah.
But it was very much unchecked power. And what ended up happening was those few people kicked me off of the committee, and I've been happier ever since. But it was a position that I was asked to fill. I was requested to do that, and I just think it's interesting how a lot of things went into that. It was during the pandemic, kind of kicked off
Mm-hmm.
on the tail end, and it's just very interesting how people pulled, as these other things, people pulled becoming powerful, self-important, wealth, power, prudent financial principles. I mean, all of these things really played into that.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
for me, thank God I had people around me that I said, "Hey, can you come to this meeting? Am I crazy? Am I on the right track here?" What I love about Alcoholics Anonymous is I didn't behave in the way I always wanted to in those meetings. I don't regret it. But what that did was, there are people who are still dealing with that, and they can call me and say, "Hey, wow, now I see like what is really going on here." And I just didn't have all the information that you had when you were going through this, and now these same people are treating other people that way.
Yeah. You probably had a hard time saying I told you so. Not saying I told you so.
I did,
Yeah. But
but
that's a good example of this. I think it does happen. I was thinking the one time, I guess that probably would tie more into six. We'll get to that. I'll get to that in a minute. This one's kind of born out of concept four also. So it just tells us that we should try not to be governors and not to try to, tell people what to do. Stay in our lane, as they say. Four, Warranty 4 talks about substantial unanimity. So basically, like on all important decisions, that it should require broad agreement. And I would also say lots of discussion, people being informed on what it is. And it's not just a 51% vote, that there's got to be substantial unanimity, which in AA we call that 2/3 or more of a vote. And this is an important one because it protects us against hasty, divisive action. It should stop us from making any really just knee-jerk reactions and votes on stuff. And it should value the minority opinion, right? So, as we've talked about in previous episodes, that the minority opinion is important. Sometimes it can help you see things differently, and sometimes it's right. I would also say, to use one of your terms, the sometimes the quiet opinion in AA is not heard either.
yeah.
Mostly because people are afraid to speak up anymore, right? Because they're seen as rigid or old or
Or because they're like, well,
closed-minded.
I want to be love and tolerance of others. And so I really struggle with that with people who have been sober much longer than I have because I respect these members of AA so much and their sobriety and everything that they have helped me with. But sometimes, I just try to encourage people like, hey, you can say things being loving, kind, tolerant, caring, but being honest too. And I do think that
Yep.
part of it is like a generational thing where younger generations like can't take the heat.
Yeah, could be.
It's like you hurt my feelings and oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. That's so mean. I worked so hard.
Yep. Yep. And then you start hearing people tell you that you're mean or snarky or,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, we should value the minority opinion. And if you've got an opinion or experience, this tells us that we should have the freedom to speak up. One thing on this one that has always kind of interested me, I always relate the best example back to the preamble change, where the committee, it kind of went to the committee, and the committee agreed to like not bring it to the conference floor that year because they wanted more information. And someone didn't like that was not on that committee didn't like that, and they brought up a floor action kind of the last minute and to change it. And they basically convinced, and I would say, I know this is no one's going to agree with this, they kind of shamed people into voting for it. And
Well, that's exactly what I mean. Is
it,
some
it
some people are just like, how could you not feel this way? And just
yeah,
listen, and they prey on emotion instead
yeah,
of
yeah,
what we've been taught in AA.
that's right. And then there were even 1 or 2 years in there where they voted and made decisions on Zoom or
Yeah.
online. I just think that was wrong. You think they would have made decisions to not make any decisions until they were face to face. So anyway, if you're in a group, if you got any major decisions the group's making, you should have a lot of discussion,
And a
a
lot
lot
of
of information.
information.
Yes, and people should be informed before they vote or form a consensus. And a lot of times, if there's no clear decision, do nothing.
Hmm.
Yeah. 5 talks about no personal punishment or public controversy. So this one basically says that AA doesn't punish its members or publicly attack anyone, even those who attack us, right? Just to keep this kind of simple. And that we stay out of fights publicly, we resist the temptation to kind of play judge, jury, or public watchdog. Now, I, I think in general, AA has done a really good job. AA as an entity, from its inception to now, has done a really good job of staying out of public controversy. And, our kind of standard answer to the outside world is we have no opinion on that. I think we crossed the line a few times. The one is that I've already talked about this one a bunch, but when we took the guy to court that was trying to sell the manuscript. So, I mean, that's a public display. You could say that's an attack, right? You're taking another individual to court, whether it's right or wrong. That did put AA in the public controversy, and it was a public attack on a person. So that's probably something that we should not have done. But I think in general, AA has done a pretty good job of staying out of that. I think internally, that lots of people's political and social stuff has come into AA, and that we have started judging each other, and we have started like forming sides, or we even know people that when they found, like, for years, like, none of us knew people's political persuasion or even their religions because we were following traditions, right? We were just trying to help alcoholics. And then 2016 rolls around, and now everybody is like figuring all that out. And we've got people that were like sponsored by folks for years, and they would fire them when they found out they didn't have the same political persuasion, or even like religious beliefs. I've known people when they found out that their sponsor was like a Christian, they'd fire them. It's just somebody that's helped them for years without issue. So anyway, I mean, it does happen. Thankfully, AA has stayed out of most of that. And Warranty 6 talks about we shall never govern. So the conference can act in service, but again, it should never become a government. Our fellowship is based on spiritual liberty and not control. And again, I think that sometimes it can seem like the conference and some of the decisions they make can seem like government. The reality is groups can choose what they do or not do, right? And there is autonomy. So it's interesting because, I mean, I've known a lot of AA members throughout the years and a lot of groups that never participate in the general service structure. And for years, I always told them, you guys are missing out. You should participate. You should get involved. And I swear lately, I'm starting to think maybe they were right. Although I still think that if we want to preserve Alcoholics Anonymous and we want to kind of keep AA more traditional and more focused on spirituality to cure alcoholism, and one alcoholic helping another, more people should get involved and more people should speak up.
Weren't you sent an email telling you couldn't participate one time on a committee?
I was actually, yeah. That's a good
That's
point.
what I was thinking of in this one.
Yes.
Or telling you that you couldn't speak up or couldn't talk or something
Yes. Yeah.
at a council meeting.
Yeah. Now the other thing on this one, so so we we had a conference right in the middle of COVID, and we had permission to actually do it from the location that we were at. And one person even says they got permission from the governor. I don't know that that's actually valid or not, but I don't know that that was necessary. But we had several area officers at the time that told us that we shouldn't do it and that we were being irresponsible and that we were killing old people and babies, children.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a form of where they were governing. And I will say this, in 2019, when the so-called pandemic hit, again, I'm going to get us way down a rabbit hole here, but so I was on the area committee. I was an area officer. And one of the officers, I was just telling the delegate, we had a conference call, and the delegate wanted to actually put out a statement from the area to the groups in the area to basically tell them to follow all city and county and state guidelines, and basically that they shouldn't be meeting, that it was irresponsible. And I was like, no, you
Let me
can't.
find out you have to follow the law to go to A.
You can't, right. I mean, if you follow that logic, I mean, nobody can come. I mean, it's just so, and they were serious about it.
Well,
And,
but here's what gets lost for me is make a decision for yourself personally based on you,
right,
and don't tell other people what to do or what not to do, or that they're a good person or a bad person, or
right. But they really thought they were going to be doing a service to the groups, and they were so virtuous, and we're going to save lives. And we ended up not doing it. However, indirectly, a couple of them still did, and they even stole some stuff that actually was not from GSO. It was from some groups in New York that were telling people basically what to do and what not to do.
yeah.
So anyway, that flies in the face of Warranty 6, that the fellowship is based in spiritual liberty, not control. So if you're a GSR or a chair or anything like that, don't have control over the group. Form consensus. Work with people. That's the 6 warranties in a high level Alcoholics Alive review.
There you go.
You got any questions?
We pretty much answered all of them.
Did we really?
Hmm.
Okay.
Well, do we always try to treat each other with mutual respect and love? I don't believe you answered that one.
Well, we try.
That's what it says. Do we always try?
The key word is try and practice.
Here you go.
You know what? I can say probably.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can tell you this lately meaning the last several years, when someone like attacks you or like publicly, like in a meeting or a business meeting or something like that, or says something that's kind of sideways, it's hard not to respond the same way.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because I personally just get fed up with it, and but I think in general that, yeah, the answer would be yes. Yeah. Well, the warranties matter. We probably should put those on placards and put them in the groups.
Probably.
Yeah.
Window shades
Th-
for the
Put them
warranties.
on put them on window shades with the concepts and everything else. Because I mean, they protect AA. They help bring about unity if we're following them, and they're effective guides for service work. And matter of fact, we've got a quote from Bill W.
Oh, snap.
talking about the warranties. It says these are the permanent bonds that hold the conference fast to the movement it serves. So he's calling Alcoholics Anonymous a movement. And he's basically saying the conference is supposed to serve the movement.
That sounds
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. We could do a whole nother kind of analysis on the approval of the PLBB to see if it actually followed this process, but I don't think we're going to do that. And if we didn't have them, AA could get politicized. I don't think we've gotten politicized externally. We could be driven by wealth and money, which could actually happen, believe it or not. I mean, right, there are a lot of AA members, and if somebody actually put out a plea for huge amounts of money and there was like no restrictions on it, people would give.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And there were people that would leave a lot of money in their wills to AA if they were allowed to. Then we could also be dictated by a few, which sometimes in some groups it seems like you are anyway. But it really kind of guards against that, and it's supposed to distract us from drama. I don't know. I know there's been a lot of drama, I would say, in the last few years, especially around the Plain Language Big Book. Man, of course, we were kind of observing all that and getting involved in it, but there was a lot of drama around that book. I'm curious to see what it's doing now.
I just think it's interesting how in that scenario, it doesn't seem like if the minority was, hey, we don't think we need this or want this, it was not heard. It was dismissed.
Yep. Yep.
So I do
And
think that these things are kind of cyclical. Like once something happens and they try to shut it down, then you get into like being distracted by this drama, the ego. Then a few people feel better than, like they have more power, like they're on the right side of things. Like one feeds into the other, and then probably all of these warranties have been,
yeah.
you know, not followed.
Yeah. And of course, it did get approved. I mean, but there were about 30% that didn't vote for it.
Yeah.
So if you think about warranties at like the group level, I mean, they apply in the group and in the area and even at the district. So in business meetings, if we follow them, that we're trying to get a consensus from the group instead of control, right? I mean, even in our own group, we had a chair for a while that really tried to control certain aspects of some of the things we were talking about and try to control a couple of the votes. I mean, instead of just letting the group form its own opinion and its own consensus. And of course, we know a consensus with a group is way better than having some kind of angry vote.
Yeah.
Way better.
Well, and I think it's easier to come to a consensus when you have the most information possible.
That's right.
Just upfront, honest, these are the facts, here's the information, here's the research, whatever it may be. Like, I am more of a fan of give people more information than they freaking want.
It makes such a difference. Well, that's right. Yeah, it makes such a difference. And people can be confident in their, in what they're looking at and what they're deciding on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, the 12th concept helps us to look at dissenting opinions and views, try to respect them and hear them, and sometimes maybe change our point of view on stuff. My point of view on babysitting got changed in our group, just as an example. And I think one of the bigger things with the warranty is it continues to confirm and support our seventh tradition, telling us to not do things that we can't afford, that we should be self-supporting, that we should not accumulate wealth, we shouldn't be greedy, and right, we also shouldn't look for handouts. So, I don't know, there's a lot in those concepts, a lot in those warranties.
It's a good one.
Don't try to have power over people. And the bottom line, Shank, is that ultimately it should help support our primary purpose, which is to carry the message to an alcoholic. And so if anything that gets in the way of that or deviates from that, we shouldn't be doing it. And so with any tradition or concept or any action that we take, really the first question that we should ask ourselves is, how does this help carry the message to an alcoholic? And if it doesn't, we shouldn't do it. That's our responsibility and our accountability back to the fellowship and to the alcoholic that still suffers. You want to move on to Living Sober Shrapnel?
Living Sober Shrapnel. This is our segment of lore, myth, and sayings taken from the booklet Living Sober. We have moved on to chapter 28 in the booklet Living Sober. This chapter is called Reading the AA Message.
Ooh.
Okay, so it's going to tell us about the 8 AA books and 3 booklets of AA approved literature. This is from the 55th printing, 2024, of the booklet Living Sober.
Okay.
So if you have an updated version, it may list more AA books.
According to that Reddit post, it's the most important book you can read.
Here you go. So our first shrapnel is The Big Book. Big Book is in quotations, although it could also be surprisingly fat, because that is also in this reading.
That would be a good one.
Yep, here's what it says. Members often refer to Alcoholics Anonymous as the Big Book, but not to compare it with any sacred text. Its first printing in 1939 was on very thick paper, so it came out surprisingly fat and was laughably dubbed the Big Book.
Oh my goodness.
Is that true?
According to Barry, it is. I think it's true. I mean, you hear all kinds of stories about it, but yeah, it's. I think it's accurate. I mean, I say the term big book. I've never actually liked it. The term big book. I always like just calling it Alcoholics Anonymous. My sponsor calls it the basic text.
Yep.
You also hear people call it the blue book. You ever heard that one?
Yes.
Yeah.
I called it the Blue Book for a long time.
It's a good term.
Well, when I would walk around with my book in prison, other people would say, "What is that blue book?" Like it was always, she's always walking around
Right.
with that blue book.
I gave a talk one time way down in the bowels of the country in North Carolina. I mean, it was like redneck city.
Nice.
And I gave this talk, and I don't even think I mentioned the book. I may have, but this guy came up to me after the meeting. He's like, I see you guys got some of that blue book sobriety in Raleigh.
I love that.
The blue book.
That's awesome.
Well, I mean, I guess this is I think it's insensitive to call the big book surprisingly fat. I mean, that's got to be some kind of violation.
It'll be changed.
And then is the big book a he or a she? They or them?
It'll be surprisingly thick, like THICCCC.
All right. Well, here's what I would say is the big book is, the term's probably not going away. It's a pretty solid term in AA, but I prefer calling the book Alcoholics Anonymous. And I think people forget that Alcoholics Anonymous is a book. Matter of fact, Barry just confirmed it.
He sure did.
So what do you want to do with it?
I might want to scrap it.
All right, let's out of here.
It's out of here. So only refer to it as Alcoholics Anonymous.
Alcoholics Anonymous. Yep.
And just so that you know, the first sentence under this heading, where the shrapnel came from, says Alcoholics Anonymous, and it says this is the basic textbook. That's
How
what
about
it says.
that?
All right, moving on. Our next Living Sober shrapnel is the 12 Steps Guides to Individual Growth.
Okay.
That also comes from page 72. So this is referring to the book 12 Steps and 12 Tradition. This is what it says. Written 13 years after Alcoholics Anonymous, this smaller volume explains principles of AA behavior, both individual and group. The 12 Steps, Guides to Individual Growth, had been discussed more briefly in the Big Book. The group principles, the 12 Traditions, became crystallized through trial and error after the first book was published. They characterize the movement and make it unique, quite unlike other societies.
Well, I can already tell you that we're not into behavior modification, and I have never seen anything in other AA literature where it talks about the steps are a guide to individual growth. So all that may be real, right? I mean, certainly the steps have helped us to be different people. Certainly the steps have helped us to have a spiritual awakening and to think and feel and act different. But when you start using these terms like AA behavior and guide to individual growth, I mean, go buy you a Tony Robbins or a Ralph Warren, what's the Rick Warren book, and study, do that. Alcoholics Anonymous is designed to help us form a relationship with God. So,
Okay, well, it also says this before it said what I just read. It says, members who want to study the AA program of recovery seriously use it as a text in conjunction with the Big Book.
oh my God, Barry.
I thought that might send you over the edge.
So I guess we
Jumping off place.
read the big book and then kind of refer to the 12 by 12 like they're telling us to do with the PLBB.
Yep, in conjunction. with the big book. So if you
Well-
want to study the AA program of recovery seriously, use that 12 by 12 as a text in conjunction with the big book.
Okay. So only serious members read both, I guess. And you can't just get it out of the book Alcoholics Anonymous.
Per Barry.
Yeah. This is around the same time that the term emotional sobriety came about, the new frontier.
The new
As a matter of fact,
frontier.
The Grapevine keeps posting that on Instagram. I wish they'd stop that. They're showing the whole book cover now. Emotional sobriety, the next frontier.
Mm-hmm.
So dumb. I'm scrapping this.
It's out of here. Okay, so next we have Alcoholics Anonymous Comes of Age. And our shrapnel, this is page 73. Our shrapnel is courageous, once hopeless former drunkards. Wow! So this is what it says.
All right.
This brief history tells how the fellowship started and how it grew for its first 20 years. It recounts the tale of how a small group of courageous, once hopeless former drunkards, with all the odds against them, finally became securely established as a worldwide movement of acknowledged effectiveness.
So it's basically talking about the book AA Comes of Age.
Yes.
All right. Which basically recounts the first 20 years of the fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like the idea of it being a courageous, once hopeless former drunkard.
Yeah. I do too.
Matter of fact, we could start introducing ourselves like that. I'm Jay Wayne. And
Part
I'm
of a
courage-
small group of courageous, once hopeless former drunkards.
Yes. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets dramatic with all the odds against them.
So much drama.
Finally became securely established as a worldwide movement of acknowledged effectiveness. Where does he get that term from? Acknowledged effectiveness? Well, I don't know. I'm a once hopeless former drunkard. And now I'm a hope dealer.
Oh my God.
We got to get a patch like that that says hope dealer.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Shank, I'm scrapping this.
It's out of here.
All right. Well,
Stay tuned next week for
yep.
the remaining of the 8 titles.
The final countdown.
Mm-hmm. It's
Oh
the
my goodness.
final countdown.
That's it. Dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun, dun. All right. Hey, if you're out there listening, we appreciate you. Join us next week for season wrap up. In the meantime, do yourself a favor, take the 12 steps, and be free.
Freedom.
Thanks for listening. If you have a comment, suggestion, or just need help, you can email Shank and Wayne at freedom@alcoholicsalive.com. Remember, we're recovered members of Alcoholics Anonymous, but we do not speak for Alcoholics Anonymous, nor do we get paid. Join us next week for another great episode.